Welcome to Gossip America. I'm Eva, bringing you the latest shocking updates on Duggar family. Unexpected twists, emotional moments, and unbelievable drama. Stay tuned till the end. In the vast, sprawling saga of the Duggar family, made famous through the controversial reality TV show 19 Kids and Counting and its spin-off Counting On, very few stories have shaken the core fanbase and pierced public attention as powerfully as the recent revelation by one of the Duggar daughters concerning her husband's sudden and terrifying medical crisis. In a family often cloaked in smiling modesty, scripture-based optimism, and unwavering composure, this raw, emotional chapter has cast a sobering light on the fragility of life and the deeply human experience behind the perfectly pleated skirts and well-rehearsed family values. The story began quietly, as so many medical emergencies do, with what seemed like a mild health concern that quickly turned into a nightmare. The couple in question, whose relationship, marriage, and young family have played out under the watchful gaze of national television cameras and tabloid speculation, was blindsided by a medical event that took them from their peaceful home to the brink of catastrophe in mere hours. The wife, known to millions as a sweet, soft-spoken, faith-driven member of the Duggar clan, found herself at the helm of a crisis no young spouse ever imagines having to face. It started one late afternoon when her husband began complaining of chest discomfort and dizziness, two symptoms that, while potentially benign in a young, healthy man, were enough to raise concern. He insisted it was probably dehydration, or perhaps stress from their increasingly packed schedules. But as the hours passed, his condition worsened. His heart began racing, his skin went pale, and he collapsed in the hallway of their home. The children were asleep. The house was quiet. She was alone with him, and the terrifying realization that something was very, very wrong. She called 911 through tears, her voice cracking as she tried to remain calm. Paramedics arrived swiftly, and within minutes he was on a stretcher, unresponsive and connected to oxygen. At the hospital, a whirlwind of tests began, from EKGs to MRIs and every acronym in between. Doctors flooded the room, nurses bustled, and a cold, sterile chaos replaced the warmth of their shared home. 4 hours she waited, pacing hospital corridors, praying aloud and silently, clutching her phone as family members texted back and forth in growing panic. Eventually, a diagnosis emerged, one they had never expected, one that would change their lives forever. Her husband had a rare cardiac condition, a congenital defect that had gone undetected his entire life. The doctors used phrases like life-threatening, time-sensitive, and surgical intervention. The condition had caused a near-fatal event, a cardiac arrhythmia that stopped just short of a full arrest. It was only by what she later called a miracle of God's timing that she found him when she did, called the ambulance, and got him to the hospital in time. As the news spread among close family members, the Duggar home network mobilized. Siblings flew in-laws offered to watch the children, and prayer chains extended from Arkansas to far corners of the country. But what struck her most during those hours in the ICU wasn't just the horror of nearly losing her husband, it was the realization that they had never truly considered what life might look like without him. They were young, devoted, full of dreams and plans. He was her best friend, her spiritual partner, the father of her children. The thought that his life had hung in the balance for hours while she could only sit and pray broke something deep inside her. In the days that followed, doctors outlined a treatment plan. It would involve a lengthy hospital stay, medication adjustments, and eventually surgery to correct the defect. He would need rest, rehabilitation, and constant monitoring. Their lives, once built on routines and faith-driven goals, now revolved around medical charts, follow-up appointments, and heart monitors. The children were confused. She tried to stay strong, offering them gentle reassurances and keeping their days as normal as possible. But each night she collapsed onto the guest bed in the hospital room, emotionally spent, her Bible clutched in her hand, trying to make sense of what they were enduring. What began as a private ordeal eventually became a public announcement, not out of obligation but out of choice. In an emotional Instagram video, she spoke to the camera with tear-filled eyes and a trembling voice. "We've been through a storm," she said, her hand resting on her husband's as he lay beside her, still weak but smiling gently. "But God has been with us. We want to share this because we know so many of you have followed our journey, have prayed for us, and you deserve to know how close we came to losing everything." Her husband nodded, his voice hoarse but firm as he added, "We've never felt our faith tested like this, and we've never felt God's presence more clearly." The response was overwhelming. Messages of love, encouragement, and prayer poured in from across the country. Fans of the show who had watched them fall in love, build their home, and welcome their babies sent stories of their own medical scares, their own brushes with mortality. Some thanked them for showing vulnerability, for breaking through the Duggar family's sometimes overly curated image, and reminding the world that even those who live by strong convictions are not immune to the randomness of suffering. But not all feedback was uncritical. Some questioned whether the family's historical reluctance to seek out modern medicine or their deeply religious views on healthcare may have delayed important treatments. Others scrutinized the timeline, speculating whether stress from being in the public eye contributed to the husband's declining health. There were also questions about how the incident would influence their future. Would they become advocates for heart health? Would they shift their public presence toward health awareness or retreat entirely from the spotlight? For the couple, however, these external reactions mattered far less than the internal transformation they had undergone. Surviving a health scare of this magnitude had not just altered their plans, it had deepened their bond in ways they could not have anticipated. She spoke often of the quiet moments, holding his hand during blood draws, whispering prayers in the middle of the night, watching him sleep while monitors beeped in the background, as the most intimate they had ever experienced. He, once the picture of energetic health, found new humility in dependence. Their love was tested, reforged, and reborn. As the husband recovered, updates came sparingly. They were deliberate in choosing what to share. They asked for space, for understanding, and most of all, for continued prayer. She posted occasional glimpses, photos of their hands entwined, a short video of him walking slowly down a hospital corridor, her voice quietly cheering him on. Each post garnered thousands of responses, from well wishes to scripture quotes, from testimonies of healing to offers of support. In time, they returned home. The hospital discharge was emotional, almost sacred. Nurses lined the hallway and applauded as he was wheeled out. A doctor handed her a small wooden cross carved by another patient who had survived the same diagnosis years earlier. The couple cried. They held each other on the curb while waiting for their ride, unsure whether to laugh, sob, or fall to their knees in gratitude. Home life was not the same. They moved slowly, cherished each hour, and avoided the temptation to rush back to normal. She transformed their bedroom into a recovery suite, softening the lighting, diffusing lavender, keeping medical supplies within reach. Their days were quieter but more intentional. Meals became blessings. Bedtime stories were extended.